Our hostel managers tell us their worst backpacker stories.
Worst backpack stories.
Backpackers. So here we go. From the Yellow Hostel in Rome. In 2016, we had a visit from a 40-year-old New Zealander who claimed to be a priest from the Vatican. After checking in with our receptionist, he explained that his purpose for the trip was to find himself. He confided in me that he was questioning his sexuality and needed to take some time off to reflect his priesthood. At this time,
Sorry, keep going. I was going to butt in, but I'll let you finish the story.
Okay. At this time, we were running a party bus type service where guests could lose their inhibitions and experience a fun night out. To our surprise, the priest seemed really enthusiastic about the event and signed up. After too much alcohol and too little water, the priest returned to the hostel with people he met on his wild night out on the town. Yeah. Then, after all the guys were fast asleep, the priest snuck out in the middle of the night. The next morning, his new friends realized they'd been robbed of all their possessions. After some Googling, we discovered that the priest was actually a seasoned con artist who had been imitating a priest across Australia and New Zealand for some time. We just hope he went to confession after his visit to the That is so ingenious.
It's a smart way if you want to rob people, but if you're smart enough, you'd see straight through it in the first place. You'd know it's full of shit. Because what the hell would a priest... There's no way a priest would be staying at a backpackers in the first place.
Well, it does raise some red flags, but that is the way you get around pretty much anything, is claim to be a priest who's questioning his sexuality.
Priests should be questioning a lot of things as far as I'm concerned.
I would love to know what levels you could take this and abuse the power. Like, could you sneak into a nightclub and say, I'm actually a priest who's questioning my sexuality. I know you normally wouldn't let older men like myself in on my own, but can you?
You could, as long as you paid your way to get in. I don't think they'd say no to doing it.
Well, a lot of
they'd be up for doing anything. Yeah, most nightclubs are, especially if it's in Europe, they pretty much almost let anything go. So that's what's good about them. So yeah, definitely possible.
I mean, I would love to see how far you could take pretending to be a priest who's questioning his sexuality.
I don't know. You could take it to all kinds of things. You could take it anywhere, I reckon. It's almost anything's possible.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's go to the next one. The Sant Jordi Hostel in Barcelona. Back in 2016, a guy came into the hostel reception wearing a suit, asking to speak to one of the girls staying with us. He was looking for this Canadian girl who had been traveling with her best friend. They had checked in a few nights before, and I recalled that she had been sleeping with another guest for a few nights, an Australian man. Ooh, Marcus.
Yes.
I went to her room to try and reach her, telling her there was a guy downstairs looking for her. The girl's friend started yelling at me to leave, and the Australian man, who was still in her bed, seemed confused and asked what was going on. The girl said it was her boyfriend. We then headed down to reception together while she was in her pajamas. When we finally got to the reception, they shared a hug, and the guy quickly took out a diamond ring, got on his knee, and proposed to her in front of me. I could not believe that he had just proposed after all that I'd seen. I felt so awkward because he didn't know that what his girlfriend had been up to the past few days. That's fucking annoying because they didn't say what happened after that. How can you leave the story on that cliffhanger?
They've left it at nothing, which is really annoying. Like, you can't leave a story at that point.
I want to know.
Yeah, I think you're not the only one. I think everyone wants to know what's happened.
Okay, so you were the Australian man, so tell us what happened next.
The Australian man just disappeared back to his room, so that's about it, and enjoyed the last 3 nights and went, "Oh, darling, I probably won't ever see you again. Happy life with your boyfriend." What a shame I just fucked. What a shame he doesn't know I just fucked you.
It would be hilarious if she'd given him a blowjob and
probably did.
She said yes, and then they kissed.
Probably did.
Have you been drinking bleach, honey?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's every chance that happened.
Yes.
Did she say, dream of that. Does it say whether she said yes or not?
No, that's the point. That's why I'm saying it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It'd be amazing if that was known.
Finally, a love story I can get behind.
Yeah.
Or maybe like the pre-story, the joke's on the hostel person and they're actually in like a cuckold relationship and like she'd finally fulfilled his fantasy.
Could have. You never know. She could have just been traveling just to get her last few shags out of the way before she ended up with the guy.
Maybe she didn't even want to do it, but the guy was forcing her to do it because it's his fantasy.
Yeah, true. You never know.
And he was so happy that she went ahead with his fantasy of fucking another guy that he then proposed.
Yeah. No, well,
I like to look at a glass half empty and that this story ended on a happy ending.
Yeah.
It was what they always wanted from the start.
Probably was, to be honest.
And he actually enjoyed when the blowjob kisses taste another guy's cum.
Yeah. I've heard some people do enjoy that sometimes. So.
You admitting something there, are you? Or?
No, I'm not, but I've heard stories of people enjoying that. So I can't say I'm one of them, but
can't say you're not either.
I think you and I have met enough interesting people in our lives to kind of know that some people enjoy that kind of stuff. So,
of course.
Right, my ball has disappeared in the sand here.
Well, you'd be used to losing your balls.
Not really, no. So, but it's right here. We'll see what happens. It should be interesting. First time I've had to go digging. Might have to build myself a sandcastle the way this is going.
I hope the last person in that sand pit had corona.
I highly doubt it because it looks like only about 5 people have been here today, to be honest. So.
And the one who had corona happened to be in that
corona had to be in it. Yeah, of course. I knew you were going to say that. So, right, yeah. Let's see how this goes. So what's the next story you got lined up for
Downtown
us?
Hanoi backpackers. I was on an organized hostel tour and had stopped off at a restaurant in a village just outside of Hanoi. A middle-aged man, Australian man in our group, was quite hammered, and on our way in the van back to the hostel, he decided to rescue a soon-to-be-eaten pot-bellied pig the restaurant had locked in a cage. Somehow he bribed the man behind the register, and before he knew it, the pig was out of the restaurant, wrapped in a bag, and was with us on our voyage back to Hanoi. At this point, we had expected him to just release the pig to one of the surrounding farms. The next morning, I awoke to the sight of the pig in the billiards room on the 7th story of the hostel, sleeping next to a Thai tattoo artist who was dressed like a pirate. It was a bizarre sighting. Unfortunately, the hostel closed not long after this incident.
I just love that somehow a pig's gone from a market to running around on a billiards table. That's outstanding.
The pig was going to be eaten to the extent of then it goes into some wild party.
Yes, that is.
You know how much fun it would be to bring a pig to a nightclub?
I reckon that'd be great. I like the idea of
oinking on the dance floor.
Can you imagine it just going like oink oink while it's like bouncing up and down on its legs and stuff? That's got comedy written all over it. So
kicking up mud all over the place.
Well, what do you expect?
Yeah,
that seems pretty normal. So
imagine the pig oinking to the music.
Oh yeah, I like that idea. That sounds
oink,
really
oink,
good.
Oink. All right, next story. We once had a guy extend his stay because someone henna tattooed his forehead while he was passed out. I was surprised to see him when I arrived in the hostel at the hostel one afternoon, as I knew he'd had a flight to Ios that morning to work in a bar in Greece for the summer. Yeah. He was topless and leaning on the bar for support. He turned around and it looked like he had dirt smeared all over his face. But as I got closer, I could see it was a henna ink. Certainly a bleak outcome. I've seen people catch flights under far more duress. So I knew there must be more. He then enlightened me to the true reason he was still there. He lifted up his cap and in henna ink, written in large letters across his forehead, were the words, "I have drugs in my ass." So he said, anyway. "It looks like I'm missing my flight. Fuck IOS, I'm staying here."
Yeah. Oh,
that is
good.
Such a better way of pranking someone to write shit on them. If you're going to write...
Just completely fuck with them.
Yeah, well, if people are going to draw dicks and shit, why not just write, "I have drugs in my ass"?
Yeah.
Just in any occasion. Because anywhere you go with the words, "I have drugs in my ass" written on your forehead.
Yeah. Everyone's going to look at you and just piss themselves laughing, basically.
Yeah.
They are going to be laughing so hard when that happens.
Or they're used to you having drugs in your ass.
Well, that too, basically. So.
All right, the next one. Sorry?
I'm sure the person, anyway, is probably almost used to having drugs in their ass if that ended up tattooed on their forehead. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you've had drugs in your ass, you've probably been out of it enough that you could have someone tattoo, in real tattoo, "I have drugs in my ass."
Yeah, on the forehead.
Also, that's a lot of letters. That's a fuckload of tattoo.
Well, see, in certain languages, it may not be so much. So it just depends. So.
Well, that's how you get people. You write it in different languages because then they never... All right, the next one. El Rio Hostel, Colombia. We once had a Scottish guest who became over-refreshed one evening and became convinced his friends were trying to kidnap him. He ended up running away and was last seen diving into the river. I was woken up by some concerned staff members who had borne witness to this, so we sent out a river search party and small fishing boats. At around 9 a.m., the police turned up with him in tow. He'd made it at about 10 miles down the road to Tayrona National Park entrance and had asked the police in a broad Glaswegian accent to take him back to Scotland. They managed to find out where he was staying, brought him back to pay his bill, then said the closest they could get him to Scotland was Santa Marta. So they were going to take him there. We never found out if he made it home or not.
No. He could have got home.
He would have got home eventually. How or whether he had to actually have drugs in his ass is a whole different story. But
that's
perhaps
true.
He got himself home.
In Colombia, anything's possible. In fact, in South America in general, anything's possible down there. So it's a great place. It's wonderful that the possibilities are endless in that part of the world. So,
all right, next one. Rarotonga backpackers. We once had some guests that were being so loud we tried to get them to leave, but they flat out refused. So the manager walked into their room, but was overcome by this horrendous stench. It was foul, she told me. She then investigated further and discovered this couple had, over the space of several weeks, collected about 1,000 sea cucumbers from the lagoon, dried them off, and she investigated. Sorry, I lost where I was up to.
Well, that doesn't surprise me when someone's got 1,000 sea cucumbers hiding somewhere.
So they're from the lagoon and dried them on the roof of the hostel. Apparently, they'd been sneaking out of their room at 1 a.m. every day and returning at 3 to start sorting through their stash. It explained why I'd been kept awake for much of the night. They were Chinese tourists, it turned out, and they were planning on exporting the sea cucumbers back home, where they were considered a luxury food. Apparently, the guests were later deported.
Oh, God.
I bet that's how coronavirus started.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. The way some fuckwit people do things sometimes. Like, that just seems a bit much. Going all the way to Colombia from China just to get a few things.
Yep.
That seems like,
Okay, next one. So, Bodega Hostel in Koh Phangan. We had a guy that...
Where's that? Because I've never even heard of that. Everywhere else I've heard of.
I don't know everywhere else.
Well, where were the other places?
I don't know. Oh, all of the hostels, you mean?
No. I at least know where you're saying, like, the cities or something where they're located.
Koh Phangan is Thailand.
Okay, Thailand. All right, that makes sense.
All right. So, yeah. We had a guy just the other day drink too many buckets. He crapped himself while crawling up the stairs, then slid over it, then picked it up and carried it back to his room. When he got to the bathroom, he must have realized what he was carrying and threw it all over the place and vomited. Then he packed up in haste, obviously with it all over him, and checked out. My staff were so shocked they didn't object. Weirdly, the same guest then came back that afternoon and asked, "How much do I owe you? And I hope you got it on camera." Wow, I'm an idiot. Then he checked back in.
And then he checked back in. Oh my God. Surprised did they allow him to check back in?
It doesn't say, so.
Well, you wouldn't allow him to check. No way.
They said then he checked back in, and I'm assuming
they must have
did let him.
Yeah, they must have. So
fun times. All right. Bayswater Hostel in London. Do you know where that is?
I know where London is.
Okay.
I don't know where the hostel is, at least.
Central London, it says.
Central. Okay, I got a rough idea where Central London is. So.
We had been on the police hot list for the previous 3 years. The hostel had 8 members of staff, all under 23 and all Australian. So there we go, Australia representing. It's amazing how much Australia features in all these overseas hostel stories.
Well, you got to remember, right? Australians travel like crazy. We go overseas like crazy.
We party like crazy.
We party like nut jobs as well. That's definitely a fact. That I know for sure because I did that for 5 years. So I did it myself. I didn't end up in some of these scenarios that some people have ended up in, but I had a fair good time going overseas. So that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, okay. So continuing on, they were all Australian. I personally delivered a baby while on the phone to some ambos on the street.
Wow.
In front of the hostel in the middle of an alcohol-fueled party.
Wow.
Another time I had an old Italian man who refused to put on clothes for a solid 4 hours in a 24 mixed person room.
Wow. That seems, but the thing is, delivering a baby seems pretty fucking crazy, but some old Italian bloke not putting clothes on, that kind of seems normal for a hostel.
Yeah, I guess it's living the dream.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't say it's living the dream, but it seems normal for working in a hostel, basically. So, yeah. That's pretty routine. So,
yeah, I guess you get wild wacko people that won't put clothes on.
You get plenty of fucking wackos. That's the best part about it. So,
well, I mean, if you're working in a hostel and you're getting upset, then I mean, you got to expect.
You need to kind of rethink what you're actually doing if that's the case. So.